Ever since the early days of Sunlight Soap and Lux Flakes, Unilever has held its corner of the market. Why should they change now? With forecasts of increasing competition, they need to learn to stay at the top. So convinced are they of this, they've set up a learning company working group chaired by Andrew Seth.
As the world becomes more competitive, as competition comes from more and more unlooked for places in more and more unlooked for ways, we would be well advised, all of us, to take advantage of the assets at our disposal. We don't like half-full factories, and we don't like wasted advertising. It should be equally criminal to have an underdeveloped, underutilized human asset complement underutilized workforce. I just think it's, as I say, it's like standing on one leg when you could stand on two.
One of the first Unilever companies to go down this path was Elida Gibbs, Britain's largest manufacturer of personal products, based in Leeds. The original producers of Pears soap, they employ nearly 1,000 staff and have an annual turnover of £180 million. The 1980s saw many changes within the company. A move from 3 sites to 1 was accompanied by increasing automation and the introduction of team working. The subsequent retraining and multi-skilling of all staff resulted in a very different type of company.
I think the most significant achievement we've made as a learning company is the way we've changed the attitude and role of our people. If you look at the success we're having, there are always problems in the high street. There's recession, there's competition, etc. But if you look at the internal strengths of the business, and you look at the style of the business and the operation of the business 5 years ago, we're completely transformed. People are different. They're taking on the challenges. Their attitudes are changing. We're now able to take on major technology change, which I don't think we could have done 5 years ago. So the internal strength and competence of the business and the people in it is the big change, I think.
Joanne Mallinson joined the company 6 years ago. Now team leader on the Flexi line, she welcomes the opportunities brought about by the recent changes.
The interest in working here has improved massively. If you come into a job and you're doing a mundane job day in, day out with not much interest, then you just do that and you go home. But now that they've encouraged people to go learn and come out of their own shells, there's sort of you've got a strength together with your team. If you see a team working together, they all pull together and help each other and work as a group, and on their own they're lost. We've always had a high quality standard, but with the British standard at Elida Gibbs being brought in and as high as it is, we really needed to bring the team members in to the quality of the line, because they didn't have that responsibility and ownership. It was always somebody else's job. And everybody, you could ask any team member now about quality on the line, and they're all checking constantly. We do logs and we fill in sheets, and even when they just sat at that job, they constantly bring it. You'll see them get up and bring work down the line and say, this has gone wrong, can we change this, can we stop that? Everybody's very, very aware. It's most important to us here.
The most visible commitment to learning at the Leeds site is a well-resourced learning centre. Open 24 hours a day, it offers all employees a range of opportunities to develop, from improving technical skills to using the resources for personal projects.
I think that might be.
Yes, yes.
One of the issues that you brought up.
Another move forward has been the introduction of facilitators working alongside a number of teams on the production lines. Tracy Wilson's been doing the job since it was introduced 2 years ago.
Facilitator's role is about coaching and helping people solve their own problems.
Next station on your machine's your filler.
You're a bit like the legs and arms of a line team, really. Because the production line team can't get off the lines, you're there as like a spokesperson that can sort of go to other departments and tell them that some of the problems that the team's experiencing with either raw materials or the machinery or anything, really.
Yes, How's it been running?
Not too bad. I know what it was like on the production line. Very frustrating. When you wanted something doing and there was nobody there to do it. Because you'd give the first line manager something on his desk, you know, a little note saying that this wanted doing, this problem wanted resolving, and it'd go to the bottom of his pile. He wasn't bothered because she was just a line operator. Whereas by having the facilitator, and the facilitator sort of carries the job through.
We've obviously learned from our sister companies in Unilever, that whether that's Birdseye or Vandenberg's or Quest or whoever it might be, as well as going to companies outside Unilever when we visited America, etc., and Germany and Japan and Europe. And there's undoubtedly many things you can pick. What the American call cherry picking is a key game here, is to go in and look at the way they do it, listen to the way people talk. They will give you very strong messages you may not understand at the time, but maybe 2 years later you realize what they're talking about. Because there's a lot of sort of jargon, there's a lot of, everybody is coming at it from a different history. So it's not like buying a book. You can't buy a formula. You have to go and look at other companies. You have to talk to them. You have to cherry pick, as the Americans say.
And cherry picking's all the rage throughout the Unilever empire. At their Gloucester ice cream factory, Birdseye Walls have combined ideas from Elida Gibbs in Leeds and sister company Lipton Independence in North America. Both provided models for the introduction of facilitators, but it was from America that Birdseye Walls chose a novel selection procedure.
The selection board consisted of people from all over the shop floor, managers, process workers, office staff, etc. And we had to basically just watch people's actions when they were given specific tasks and to see how they reacted to these tasks, how their thought processes worked, and how they worked with other people to get a result.
At these functional analysis meetings,
Having selected facilitators on the North American model, they're now being trained by one of Lipton Independent's training consultants.
people, along with someone like myself probably facilitating the meeting.
Nowadays, it is extremely important, and it is seen as important, that organisations are open to pick up new ideas, whether we call that cherry picking or cross-fertilisation or stealing shamelessly, whatever phrases, because nowadays the pace of change has moved so fast that one cannot expect to invent all good ideas oneself, and if you come across them, and if they're not patented or protected, then of course one is free to use them, and one should use them in order to improve the organisation.
So cherry-picking has led to a spread of best practice throughout Unilever. But still the main focus of change is new technology and the need for multi-skilling. And that means fewer jobs. So is training and development the right path or the only path to take?
Well, if you wanted my honest answer, I think it's wrong. I don't see why we should be taking people's jobs away. But if you want the right answer, I believe we haven't got a choice. I believe if we don't do it, competitors will. And as a trade union, if we don't get involved and try and do the best for the membership when it's happening, then I believe we'll do them a disservice because we won't be working here. We'll have gone underneath with like a lot of other firms that stood still. So yes, I don't like it. I don't believe we have much of a choice. We have to try and do our best in it.
When you embark on any change programme, there are always apprehensions in the organisation about what it's going to mean to jobs, what it's going to mean to individuals and people. The accumulated experience, of course, is that those companies which embrace change most readily are the ones which are going to succeed and are going to be best able to cope with the competitive nature of the future. Those that don't change are almost certainly going to get into trouble and have really big, difficult restructuring programs to put forward. But managing change means also managing the difficult sides of change, and I think that that's an attitude of the business as to how it will be managed, how will the people be dealt with. They have to be faced up to. You can't avoid those particular issues, but one can manage it either badly or really well.
What you have to do is you have to try and explain to people that it is a matter of survival, that we are moving forward, we have to be the best, we do expect to survive, we are in the game for a long term, a long period, but the people that stay with us will have to be better than they've ever been in the past, that expectations are rising, skill levels have to rise, performance has to rise, etc. So that there are two issues. What about the people who don't stay with us? And my only point there is that training and being in a learning organisation is of great value, whatever you do.
So Unilever has felt the threat of competition and has recognised the changes that are going on outside. It's not falling into the trap of thinking it can go on as it always has done. So how is it becoming a learning organisation? What is it doing to bring this learning about? One of the interesting things it's doing is the encouragement to its various autonomous companies to learn from each other, this cherry-picking idea. So you're encouraged to go out, look at other companies, see what they're doing, bring back the best of what they do, and say, how can this work in our company, in our plant? The second thing that Unilever are doing is providing a lot of support for learning at all levels throughout the company. At the company level, they've set up this learning company working group, and the aim of that is to encourage each of the constituent companies to think about how the learning company idea might work for them. And it will be different for each one of them. They'll all have to interpret it as it fits their own particular circumstances. Secondly, it's encouraging the companies themselves to put a lot of resources down to the people to encourage them to learn. So we've got the learning resource centres, the facilitation and so on. And this is very important because there are various dilemmas in the change and learning which companies are having to go in for. In most companies are getting smaller. New technology usually means fewer jobs. No one can be promised a job for life. What the learning company tries to do in the face of that is put the resources down to the people to encourage them to learn the skills to be able to cope with whatever the future might bring.